Hey everybody, it's the Professor, and once again, it's the one and only Blue Pill Professor coming at you from the internet and talking to you about the things we really care about, namely the nature of women and what we are all going to do about it now that we have awoken from our long. And this week, on the question of whether a woman's soul was really created below, we turn to a classic blog post by Rollo Tomasi that had set the manosphere on fire for a short period of time in 2013, and it has the distinction of being the first post on Reddit that actually drew an emotional reaction to me, or from me. So this guy posted on Reddit the following. I posted this earlier on another Reddit, but it ended up getting removed because of fighting in the comments. Here's what happened. I met my wife 7 years ago. She was extremely picky when it came to sex. She told me that she has only been with one other guy before. She would never give a blowjob, only would do certain positions, and found almost every sex act degrading. I was frustrated by this, but I really liked her, and hoped over the years that she would open up sexually. Over the years, it never got any better. But I learned to get over it. Of course you did. Well, I ended up finding an old video from her college days of her engaging in group sex with 6 other people. 5 guys, 1 girl. In the video, she has anal sex, oral sex, gets double teamed, and yells multiple times in the video that she is I am a filthy whore. All of it. She was enthusiastic about it. I ended up feeling really sad. And I think the part that bothered me most was when he wrote, I ended up leaving my wife, kept trying to stop me. She kept on begging, saying I could do anything I wanted with her. It was truly pathetic, and I lost all respect for my wife, the way she was trying to manipulate me with sex. Now, of course, if you've been listening to this podcast series, you understand exactly what has happened here. This is a woman who, like all women, will do just as much as she's allowed to do unless she is forced. That's right, I said forced. She was not sexually excited by her beta provider in the way that she was with her alpha lovers, but take away that betaness and go full dark triad on the bitch. And what does she do? Immediately, she offers up what she should have offered up a long time ago. So I'm not here telling you that one example in one Reddit post suggests that a woman's soul is created below. What I am suggesting, however, is that millions upon millions upon millions of examples, almost exactly like this, indeed do suggest a woman's soul was created below. Any man who's been divorced, in about 50% of the cases, will find that his sexually withdrawing, boring, lame wife who wouldn't do anything adventuresome with him suddenly is doing the craziest shit with her new lover. And again, I believe that's in about 40 to 50% of all divorce cases. So I offer up the lies, the deliberate sexual manipulation, which all too many women engage in, as evidence that a woman's soul was indeed created below. And this week, we are going to finally get to the penultimate topic of game. In a sense, game is what we have been talking about this entire podcast series. We had an entire podcast on frame, and game and frame are often used interchangeably, but they are very different concepts. Frame is you at your best, while game is a set of behavioral adaptations designed to maximize your attraction to the opposite sex. In other words, game is how you get laid. Anyone who gets laid uses game. Girls who get laid use girl game. And that is actually beyond the scope of this podcast series. But you guys know girl game when they start flicking their hair and acting cute, blah blah. But for us guys, if you're getting laid, you're using game. It may not be good game. It may be lousy game. You may have almost no game at all. But if you're getting laid, whatever it is that you're doing to get laid is your game. And the concept of pickup artistry use of game is that game can be learned. Let me repeat. Game can be learned. You can learn to get good at game. You can learn to maximize your attraction to the opposite sex by altering just a few behaviors, often quite subtly. And so we try to alter those behaviors in ways that get us laid more. We call that good game. And behaviors that don't get you laid very often are still game, but they're just bad game. So we're going to stick with good game. But before I get there, I should mention some of the other types of game. There's beta game, for example, which is usually not very good game, but it's also the most common type of game, so I thought I should mention it. Beta game, of course, consists of buying flowers and taking her out for an expensive dinner. Or if you're married, it consists of cleaning the house and doing the dishes, perhaps rubbing her feet, and so on. And once again, beta game is not bad. It's just not good. It's not good game because it doesn't actually turn women on. They may appreciate it, but they're not going to become sexually aroused by beta game, in spite of them telling you the exact opposite. There's also Omega game, which is basically whining, begging, "Mommy, give me some candy" type of game. And of course, there's Asshole game, which is remarkably effective, unfortunately. I think the reason that Asshole game works so well is because it partially mimics Alpha game. It at least mimics it a lot better than Beta game. You know, in Married Red Pill, we always talk about the IDGAF attitude, the I don't give a fuck attitude, as being very attractive to women. And it's true, but only in certain measures. When you get to the point where you're actively putting down your woman and actively being a negative influence, that's when we call that asshole game. You're not a positive person, you're just an asshole, but in some respects it's enough to get people laid because there is such a dearth, such a non-existent presence of true alphas. So for alpha game, we're finally to the important piece. What is alpha game? Alpha game is pure confidence. It is having a frame where you know who you are. And the game is pulling the woman into your frame. Because once she enters your world, even for a short period of time, you have her. Because the tingles get activated. And this is true whether you're on a one-night pickup or whether you've been married for 39 years. So the goal is to be the in-charge, fun, attractive alpha. And the bottom line is be attractive, don't be unattractive. And I have a brief story to tell about myself, because it illustrates what we're talking about and bridges the next section. It's entitled, How I Lost My Game. Well, I'm not going to tell you how or why I lost my game. Just trust me, it was some bad shit, which resulted in years of depression and, frankly, years of me being an asshole and practicing asshole game. It worked for about once or twice a month, if I was lucky. So I was pissed, I was a jerk, until I discovered the red pill and realized I was the drunk chap and decided to step up my game a bit. And so I went back to the very beginning. Decades before, when I had first met my wife, when I had first seduced her, I thought to myself, what did I do then that I am not doing now? And I thought back to that first night on our third date together, and when I had her home back on the couch. Well, let's just say I pushed the irresistibility cue pretty hard. I told her that we were going to be great together, and that I was going to make her feel things she had never imagined. Well, actually, I said that on the second date. So by the third date, when I had her on the couch, things were tingling right along. And yeah. So why am I telling you this? Because I suggest that you go back to your first time with your woman. Figure out what worked then. Because when I started faking it, I even repeated some of the same lines that I had used decades before. Guess what? It still worked. When I planted the seed in her mind the day before and escalated hard the next day, somehow it seemed to work. And that is the essence of game. Engaging in whatever behaviors you need to tweak in order to maximize your attraction. And I'm suggesting, as married guys, we have all the answers that we need in most cases. So I followed the red pill solution for building up your game. And I've got 9 things written down. Number 1. Can you guess what it is? What's number 1? If you said lift, go to the front of the class. Yes, lift. Get in shape, lose the fat gut. Take care of your physical body and improve your physical presence. Number 2, read the books. Mental exercise is just like physical exercise. You have to push yourself and you have to do it consistently. Number 3, adapt an emotionally stoic demeanor. Again, this comes from the readings such as the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, the Enchiridion by Epictetus, and actually very few others. 4th thing on my list is to seduce. Learn seduction, learn how it works, learn how to instigate, learn how to isolate, learn how to escalate, and be open about your sexuality and your desires. Number 5 is OI. That is outcome independence. I already said the underlying theme is to be attractive, don't be unattractive, and having outcome independence is attractive. I don't know why, I just know that it is. So it's important when you are turned down sexually, when you are shit tested, that you respond with a cool, calm demeanor with the outcome independent of your responses. It should not faze you or matter to you in the least, at least as far as she can tell. And again, this list is what I wrote down on how to regain your game and how I regained my game following the red pill. The number 6 one is IDGAF. I don't give a fuck. You must be able to look divorce right in the eye and say, well, it would suck, but I guess I don't give a fuck if it were to happen. I would just carry on. But along with that, I don't give a fuck, must also be a positive, affirming demeanor. We are talking about pickup artistry game. And we're talking about wife game. And if you want a happy marriage, you need to be a positive, affirming, happy presence who is interested in the bizarre workings of the female, but really only from an amused, distant perspective. Because number 8 is, in being attractive and building game, is to be an aloof alpha who is not caught up in these emotions. And finally, number 9, learn to be the oak. Learn to provide comfort and security while at the same time projecting strength and self-assuredness. And that is the type of game you want to spit, because once you're spitting out game like that, even if you're faking it, guys, trust me, many of the low sex problems in your marriage will be solved. So next week, or possibly the week after that, or the week after that, we will finish up this podcast series, this Married Red Pill Basic class, with the all-important concept of dread game, which, as most of you know, is the topic of my soon-to-be best-selling book, Saving a Low-Sex Marriage, A Man's Guide to Dread, Seduction, and the Long Game. And that music means my time is up, so as always, I leave you with the words of wisdom of Mr. Robert Plant and Led Zeppelin.
But now's the time to look and look again at what you see. Is that the way it ought to stay?